Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, recording my first video in like over a week because I've been on vacation. And as I was painting on vacation, I really had a hankering to dig into my more artist grade paints. I brought my watercolors with me. I brought my Cotman Travel Studio 24 full pan set. I love it. It was great. And as I was painting and having a ball, I was just thinking, now I kind of want to paint with my more artist quality paints, and especially these core paints. I got these I would say probably about almost 2 years ago, and I've kind of put little dabs out here and there and played with them, but never really committed them to a palette because I didn't have a free palette at the time. And then I actually got some very cheap, inexpensive paint sets that I actually bought for the palette and for the half pans, because half pans are crazy expensive unless you want to order them. I guess Jackson's Art in the UK will ship them fairly affordably, but still they're expensive. And so I got some cheap kid sets that my kids use the paint up on, and I saved the half pans to use. So what I'm using here, and by the way, when you used to order the core trial sets, the 5 milliliter small sets of 6, they came in big tins like this, and I ordered the 3 introductory 6 sets that they had because there was no overlap between those 3. Loved the paints, and I really love these tins, but they actually started making them smaller because a lot of artists complained about how much packaging there was for the 6. So you'd have like 6 little tubes of paint like this, right, in this big tin. I loved it though because I figured this is a beautiful palette. You can squirt your paints in here, let them dry, store your stuff in there for on the go, and it's great. I didn't really love that these wells were on the top of that were on the lid of the palette though, because I thought, well, I was afraid it might drip onto things I had in the tin. It was really a lot of wasted space if I was just going to use that for a palette. But then I realized that this would just make such a beautiful mixing area, and I could put half pans or ice cube trays or something in this side to hold the paint. So I actually went and ordered some mini ice cube trays on Amazon, thinking these are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, roughly just a hair smaller than a half pan. But as I was thinking about it more and more, I was wondering if I'd be able to get my brushes. I mean, that's not a huge difference, but it's a difference. I think like 1/8 of an inch is kind of a big difference when you're looking at such a small area. I might cut these up and make teeny tiny little palettes with them for on the go travel, but I'm not sure. I'm just kind of hesitating on this a bit, but because I was thinking I could cut that up and put it in there, but then I thought, those are small, and quite frankly, I really don't want to have this many. I don't want to have 90 colors going at once. I paint with like 7, at the most I have 7 colors in a painting, and I mix everything from that. Usually I'm more around 5 colors per painting. So and I don't like to be overwhelmed with too many colors. So what I did was I actually took my Daniel Smith colors, because I only had 6 of those, and I decided I would make little half pans of those, and then I decided I would do my 18 core colors, and they would fit happily in this little box, and I would keep using up these core colors that I had squeezed out, because I put all 18, just little dabs of it to work on when I first got them, and I'm still working on them because that's the thing about artists watercolors, they do go a really, really, really long time. So I think these 5 milliliter tubes will be fantastic and will last quite a long time. So I've got 2 colors that I have yet to do, and I'm going to offer some tips. So I know we're 3 minutes in and I haven't really done much, so I apologize. So the first thing I did was I took these inexpensive pans and I washed them out, and then I got a bag of 100 of these little round adhesive back magnets at Oriental Trading Company for about $4. You don't need super strong magnets. You can use magnet tape, I think, as long as the adhesive is strong on it. I wouldn't bother with like rare earth magnets because that's just overkill. You don't need magnets that strong. Just something, pretty lightweight will do. And these are pretty lightweight craft magnets. And so you want to put them on the bottom of your pans. And what I also like about this is that these tins are fairly deep. I'd say, well, let me hold it kind of sideways. You can see it's kind of deep. And by putting these magnets, which are probably 1/8 of an inch thick, on the bottom, it raises the pans up a little bit so they don't get kind of lost under the lip if I push them to the edge, which I like. So I'm gonna press that in really good, make sure, and I like to do this before I put paint in, just make sure I can get a really good contact in there. And then I'm gonna use a Sharpie, and I'm gonna write on the pan as neatly as I can, which isn't very neat because I have horrible handwriting. I'm gonna write Core, Q-O-R. That's the brand name. These are the Core by Golden. And here's another tip. When a company comes out with a new line of watercolors, I will usually jump and buy them right away because they'll be crazy cheap, like 75% off what they're regular gonna be. So that's what I did with these 3 core sets, and I'm so glad I did. So they were like $22 a set of 6 colors, which for artist grade paints is pretty remarkable. And so I have dioxazine purple. So I'm just gonna put diox XP. And I have cerulean blue. So I'm just going to put, again, core, so I know. In case I put another brand in here, because I got all kinds of room. Oh my gosh, see? Bad handwriting. I don't even know how to spell cerulean. I'm going to put C-E-R-U blue. C-E-R-U-B. Actually, I'm going to do this on the other side again because I can't even tell what I wrote. C-E-R-U-B. Blue. I guess I could write blue. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Writing tiny is not my forte. So here's another tip. A lot of paint gets wasted when you squeeze out your paints. So what I recommend is investing in a tube wringer, and they're only a couple of bucks. And if I had to do it again though, I would have bought a steel one. I got this cheap plastic one. But I got it like, I don't know, 20 years ago, and it's still going, so it's not bad. But I think that's why my M. Graham paints have lasted me so long, is because I've used that tube wringer. And you waste about, it's crazy, you would not believe it unless you've used one of these, but you waste about 25 to 30% of your paint because it gets stuck in the tube. Even when you think you've squished it flat, there's more paint in there once you wring it. So I really recommend that if you have $5, you know, get one of those. Get the steel one if you can, because I think sometimes this catches. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I think it will save you a little aggravation. So the cerulean blue. So what I do, you don't want to use the wringer on it right off the bat. You want to make sure you have some of the tube squeezed flat. So here, now that I have some of that squeezed flat, I'm just going to move some things out of the way in case this gets a little wild. This is very awkward, and if you have a second set of hands, it might be helpful. You basically just open this up and you grab the end. Try to grab as close to the end as you can with the little teeth there. This is kind of like a paper crimper, actually. You might even be able to use a paper crimper, but it might break it, so I would be careful. And then you just want to give it a couple little cranks, okay? And once you get to the full part of the tube, and maybe not if you have the steel one, but if you have the cheap plastic one, it's going to want to stop. Okay, which is kind of good. So then I just kind of turn the crank back the other way. And this is a very liquid color, so it's going in very flat. But then I like to give it a little squeeze on the edge to let the paint fall back into the tube a little bit. So I am usually able to get, like, after I've squeezed it flat and then gone over that flattened part with this, I'm usually able to get like a lentil to a pea size of extra paint out, which wouldn't sound like a big deal if you're doing acrylics or oils, but with watercolor you pay so much more per milliliter and it goes so much further. That's like probably a dozen paintings of paint there that you're wasting if you don't use something like this. So I don't know who makes this. I'm not trying to sell you these, but I do think it's a good deal. But I would recommend the metal one. I think it would be a little bit more robust and last you a little bit longer. But it's basically a paper crimper. If you have an old paper crimper you're not using, give that a whirl before you go buy something. And I'll just show you that one more time. We'll do our purple here. Again, this hasn't been used that much, so I do want to give it a little squirt before I begin, just to get some, fill it about halfway, if that. And then I'm gonna move that out of the way. I like to make sure I don't have anything nearby in case this like jerks and it flips and then it squirts it. It hasn't happened to me, but it was very awkward the first couple times I tried to use this after not using it in quite a while, and I was afraid that was going to happen. So I'm just going to crank it a couple times to get through the flattened part. And you can see that a lot is coming out in the areas that I've already flattened. And sometimes it will actually want to go and go further for you. Now here's another tip. Sometimes when you do this, your paint's gonna be thicker and it's gonna rise up over, I don't want to pour that out, but you can see it's up over the edge. Again, I'll put the cap on in a little bit. So when that happens, I take my finger and I dip it in some clean water, which I have off camera, and then I'm just gonna flatten it down so it fills the crevices, and it will settle in and it will shrink up a little bit and be nice and flat and great to paint on. And then if I have any extra, I probably shouldn't have filled it that high, I'll just scrape it in. Just make sure you start off with clean hands before you do this so you don't contaminate anything. And then wash your hands really well before you eat or handle anything else so you don't end up getting any of these minerals in your system, because you don't want to get sick. And then another tip is to save your paint caps. When you finish up a tube, save your paint caps and store them wherever you store that particular brand of paint, because one goes flying one day and then you can't cap it up. And with watercolor it's not that big of a deal because you could squeeze it all out, or if it dries you can always cut the tube away and plop that chunk into your palette. But But if not, you know, especially if it was like an acrylic or an oil, and if you couldn't find your cap, you would be out of luck, and it could just ruin your tube of paint. And paint's expensive, especially when you start branching out into your artist quality paints. And plus, it's good not to waste. It's good to, you know, conserve your materials so they go towards art and not towards, you know, the trash can. And I'm just going to keep my Daniel Smith in there too, because that's in the same palette. So I'm not going to organize these right now. I'm just going to move them over to the edge just to kind of show you some ideas you could do with this tin. And you don't have to have this tin. You could get like a chocolate tin or whatever kind of tin you have. But like I can push these all the way over to the side. If I'm gonna like go traveling and I just want a backpack for the day, I could take out 6 colors and put them in an Altoids tin because they're hooked with magnets. They're not permanently there. I think I'd probably leave this in the studio. I don't foresee myself like traveling with this thing packed full of paints just because I don't tend to use that much on the road, but they're in there nice and securely. I'm not going to tip it upside down because obviously it's full of liquid paint that has not dried yet. But I'm going to put them in rainbow order once they're dry and I can handle them a little bit better, which will take a couple of days. But with all this open space in the middle here, I could put a watercolor block. This is my when I took on vacation, I have a painting that I haven't cut off the top, is that leaf. If you want a tutorial, let me know. I could set that in there. I could throw in a short water brush or two, a pen, and, you know, close it up, and I'm ready to go. But I can also keep this closed after they dry out and keep the dust off them. I just think it's great, and I actually like these bigger tins. So if you're going to try to, I think the bigger sets of the core paints come in the larger tin, not the individual ones, of course, but I think if you're getting like the 12, they have a 24 setup now, I think. And I think that comes in the bigger tin. But if not, and if you just want to try the 6 set, if you call or just leave a comment when you order, if you ask if they have any of the larger tins, they would probably ship you those. Now they're shipping them in the smaller tins, but a lot of companies still have the older stock and they have the bigger tins, and it's not going to hurt anything to get the older paint. The stuff lasts forever. So I would definitely recommend that if you want the bigger tin. If you want the smaller tin, again, you could always suggest that. The smaller tins are probably about that big, maybe half the size or maybe a little bit smaller for the 6 core paints as they come. So just to let you know, in case you want one or the other, just specify it when you order, wherever you're ordering, and I'm sure they'd probably accommodate you if they can. Hope you found this useful. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, you could fill this up with your pans. I would definitely recommend labeling them, and that's the thing that the trouble I had thinking about how I was going to use this is like, if I have 90 colors in here, I'm going to be confused. I'm not going to know what color I'm using. If I'm teaching a tutorial on YouTube or in a class and I say, okay, we're using this, you know, cobalt teal, or maybe I can't tell exactly what color it is because I have so many other colors here and I'm getting confused. This way I can actually write the colors on. I can take out the 5 that I'm going to use, put them in the middle, or bring them even over here and mix all my colors right here. And just to show you, you know, or I could transform over to this beautiful pristine one, but I didn't want to waste this color. I wanted to use this up first before I start dipping into my pans anyway. I hope you found this helpful. This is something I've been meaning to do since I was on vacation and thinking about these beautiful paints I have back home, and I did it, and hopefully you found it useful. I'll have the list of things I used in the video description. Again, nothing is a specific brand or anything. Use what you have. Oh, and if you can't get half pans, you know what you can use? Bottle caps. Go into your recycling bin, take all the caps off your returnables. They'll still take the bottles back without the caps. It's crazy. Wash them and put magnets on the bottom. That'll work just as well as a half pan, and you don't have to buy them, which is great. I hope you found this helpful. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like videos like this. Until next time, happy crafting.